The cool thing is, we've already been doing a lot of this. Create and register a new module. Create a controller in your module. And enable and disable a module. Okay. We've seen this. What is this? Module. Yeah, it's our module registration, module activation file. This lives in @Betsy modules. This is where Magento goes to find out about modules. Okay? And in here, we have our active flag, we have our code pool. So config modules, and then our path in the file system here, our active flag, which code pool we operate in, and any dependencies that we want to declare. That's what you put in these files. All right. Code pool, one of core, community, local. Active flag. If it's set to false, then our module configuration won't be found. Or won't be evaluated. So dependencies, then whatever we list there, that'll make sure that module is loaded before ours. Name and version, we'll talk about more on Thursday. Class groups. We were looking at class groups, right? I know I'm blowing through these things. We've been through all this stuff, and this exercise at the end of this really deals with this directly. Class groups, that's what we have under config global, blocks, models, and helpers. And inside there, we set up our class groups. For a class group, again, we'll look at one of the enterprise module configuration. So if in the enterprise reward module, so in AppCode Core enterprise reward etc config.xml, we'd have a config node, and then global, models, enterprise reward. Enterprise reward, enterprise reward. That's our class group. And again, the system uses this to look up this node, and then in this node, finds this class node, uses this value, tries to load enterprise reward model action tag. Okay? Yeah, this one may be a little bit hard to read up here, but should be legible in your book. We put this all in one slide just to show you once again the pattern that exists. You have global blocks, helpers, models, and inside there, directly under blocks, directly under helpers, directly under models is where you declare your class group. In this case, it's just generically referred to namespace _ module. And then that is connected to the file system via this class node. So namespace module block. So I could then now I could call for this, for example, for a helper. I could say namespace module, let me see, mage helper, and then in mage helper I could put, so based on what's configured here for blocks, helpers, models, I could do for the helper, let's say mage. Well, I'll do get model since I've started writing get. Get model. And in this case, I would have to say namespace module. And then whatever I'm going to instantiate after that. And then the system, of course, based on what I've provided here, is able to connect models, namespace module with this class, with this path to my files. All right. Down here we actually have some configuration stuff that you guys haven't really seen much of yet. We've looked at resource models and how this node will then become, or what's specified as a text value here becomes a node under models, etc. get more into that on Thursday. So that's class groups. Additionally, we can set up database connections. You can set up a different connection, say if you want to move archive some sales order data in a separate database. Hone setup model. All right, so setup models, again, Thursday. If you have some kind of complex logic for your that your model needs to install, you can create your own setup model and specify that logic in there, especially if you need to grab information from other models. Depending on the time that we have, we'll look at that. We'll at least look at it in the context of the catalog module, but we may not do that in our own module. You can also specify layout and translation files, one per area, so front end and admin. And we will be looking at specifying a layout file for our module shortly. Okay, so regarding that layout file, again, we would have config, admin HTML. So this would be in our module. We have config, admin HTML, and then we specify layout, updates. So layout updates is basically the path that we need to go down to specify our file. And in this case, we have got just, again, another unique node in which we declare a single file node, and we specify a path. In the past, Magento would just put the file directly, specify the file directly. Now it is really, it's best practice to actually specify a folder, sort of to namespace your file and keep it safe from other modules. And we'll of course be looking at that because that is our, as we start to get into the layout XML and the rendering, we'll be using our own layout file to adjust the output. All right, so let me see. In our module declarations, let's see. Table declarations, other things. So yeah, so we can define inside our entities node, inside our resource models, we can declare tables. We can also declare our observers. We can do our cron job and set up our controllers, and based on dependencies, the activation sequence. So again, just sort of a review of the configuration work that we've done so far. All right, so I'm going to leave you all to your own devices for the next 10-15 minutes. I'm going to be here, and I will ask you to now walk through creating your own module, as well as registering a class group for models, blocks, and helpers. And let's see, go ahead and create a model in the right place. And yeah, go ahead and go up through doing the configuration for your controller in the front end. I will. Day two, yeah. Okay.
Good.
So. And then after this, I know I've got to go here under AppCode local. And because I'm using NetBeans, I can do something great and just do day/2/Etsy. Since I know at the very least I'll need a configuration. So, create this XML document here, config. So blocks and helpers and models. Oh my. All right, and then in here, yeah, my class group name. So I'm going to choose day 2, and I'm going to specify my class. So day 2, and I'll do, this is a little trick I like to do because I don't like to type. And then I'll just say block, helper, and model. Helper. No, I want heppers. And then I would just need a folder named Hepper or Heaper. Whatever I pass in to those methods, that string value that I pass in before the slash, just comes from here. So I'll do this one more time here. So get model takes, in this case, day 2. Helper. So. Mage helper. Day 2. And mage app get layout would be day 2. This is the functional implication of this configuration right here. And once this is done, I can start making classes in my module to my heart's content, because if I put something, if I create a file in the blocks, in the block folder, day2 block foo.php, well then I can call day2 foo. If I make one folder under block foo, and then in there I put a bar, put a bar.php, well, this would be foo underscore bar. That's what the class groups do in Magento. All right? And also, of course, I can refer to these class groups in a different module configuration file and rewrite those methods. But this is the connection. That's all this does here, is give us the ability to use these factory methods. And gives the factory methods an ability to look up a file system path. Okay. Any questions about this? So, I need to register front-end controllers, front-end routers. So, what is my next? What's my next step in my configuration here?
Front end.
Front end. And then routers. And then I simply, what else do I need? Okay, so what do I need in here? So this is front-end routers. I need a spot to put my stuff. That's all. Unique namespace, exactly. I'll just use my class group, well, not this class group notation, day2. Okay. So then here I have to say, which one of the router classes I'm using. And I'm going to use standard because I'm in the front end. Then I have to pass in a couple of args. I really do actually say this narrative in my head as I do these modules. I think it's, for me, it's the only way I can keep it all straight in my head. So I need to pass in these two args, and the args that I need to pass in are the module information, and my module information exactly is going to match my file system paths to my controllers directory. With the caveat, of course, that after that second layer, we're going to have a controllers folder, whether we like it or not. And then I need a front name. So in this case, maybe I will say, what you specified may vary. I could say anything. So, hey-o. All right. Good. That's a pretty complete configuration. All right. Our next step is to create a controller in our module. So let's just do the cool thing, and we'll make an index controller, and in it we'll have an index action. So for me, that means I'll need, let me see, day2, I'll need my little controllers directory. And in there, I'll need an index controller. And then I just need public function index action. Okay, so what do we have going on here? We've done this a couple of times, but we really need to get into why it is this way. All right? So, who can talk me through why is this class named Day 2 Index Controller? Right, heard. Folder structures, because of where it's located. Again, you know, the autoloader can be a little bit weird to think about anyway, but it's a nice convention for our models, blocks, and helpers. All we ever have to do is look at their class names, and that gives us a nice path. For the controller files, it's a little different. So it's a combination of file system and then stuff that Magento does automatically. So we're going to have our namespace and module name, just because that's our folder structure. Day, and then 2. And in the file system, we have our controllers directory. But we don't add that here. Instead, we just have the underscore, and we specify index controller. That's our file name. And this is the class that Magento will try and instantiate based on a route, such as, in my case, heyo index. Okay? So if I just go to /heyo, site.com/heyo, then the assumption is index controller, index action. So Magento will take this, look here, see, okay, day 2, and then I'm going to look in a controllers directory for an index controller. So these two things, day 2 and index controller, those match up with the file system. The only thing you have to remember is that there's a controllers directory in there. And now we can check that it works.
I thought it said to get your model in there.
We will. All right, so I will. I'll go and hit this route. Heyo. Okay. Everyone should have a controller file, and everyone's controller file should be rendering output on whatever front name route you specified. If it's not, please raise your hand, and I will come assist. So now that we all, have working route. Okay. Well, I can close this out, and I can close. Oh, I need these two open still. I'll split the screen this way. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to fix my XML here. Okay. Now, I've specified my model class group. So one of the next steps in this exercise is to get a model instance using MageGetModel. Okay. And since I already have this route here, I already have this controller at my disposal, why, I could just make a whole new action in here. And I'll just call it a model action. Okay? Now, in my model action, I can just say, echo get class mage get model. All right. I know the first part of what I'm going to put in the get model call, right? Day 2. And that day 2, of course, day 2 comes from my configuration here for models. Models, day 2. System takes this, matches it against the file system. So I'm just going to say day 2, and it's getting late in the day, so we'll just have a whatever class. Whatever. There we go. So now that I've done this, I obviously need to do something else. And that something else is going to be, I've got to create my model file. So I specified in my configuration day 2 model. That means I need to make a model folder under day 2. Right. And in here, just guess what that class name is going to be. Whatever. So, a file name, whatever, and the class is going to be day. Let me. Oh, no. Day 2 model, whatever. And we're going to extend, as all good models do, extend from Mage, core, model, abstract. Wow. Come on, NetBeans. Okay, so this file, I'll go ahead and put a path up here, though. App code local day 2 model whatever. So again, with models, blocks, and helpers, super easy to know where they are. Day 2 model whatever, day 2 model whatever. I don't need to do anything else for the purpose of this exercise. I need a class, though. So NetBeans thinks I need to do something else, and NetBeans is right. So now that I have a properly defined class, I should be able to go in here. This should work. I should be able to then... Now, where would I go to see this? So, where am I? I'm in my Heyo. Heyo gets me up to up to the door here. So I'm in my index controller and I have a model action. /index/model. Exactly right. Okay. So, oops. So front name. That's configuration. Everything else is where stuff is in the file system. Index maps to the index controller file and class. And model is the action that maps to model action. So I should be able to go here. And great. So I have a problem. I think actually I may have, let's see, app. Let me make sure I didn't. Day 2. All right, that's active.
Whether you're done with whatever, shouldn't you have a capital S?
What's that?
You go back to your index controller.
Mm-hmm.
You have the whatever PHP capitalized, but not that one.
No, the very first part after the slash will need to be lowercase. Well, it needs to be lowercase. If you don't use lowercase, the problem with casing is if you don't use when we go to do class rewrites, if you've specified uppercase, the rewrite won't trigger. But so in general, the convention is you will always see you will only see lowercase in here. Just as a convention, it's I see no reason to mix cases in here. If you've specified a different kind of class, if you specified class groups with capital letters, then you'll need to put that in here. But I always stick with lowercase and recommend that you do the same. There's no reason to throw that in. So I actually would expect this to work. So let me see. Manage get model, day 2, whatever. All right, so let me make sure my configuration is being loaded. And of course I can do that by breaking that. Okay. So maybe I have some kind of kitschy error here with PHP.
Is font name supposed to be capital N?
Yep,
Yeah, you probably changed that to tell us.
I did. Hey,
You were demonstrating that.
I was demonstrating exactly what I just proved. Day 2 model, whatever, yay! Right? We can all go celebrate. In-N-Out Burger. Most of us. I don't know if they have any non-red meat options. I think they do have. Veggie burger. Is to make our module dependent on. And here it says mage log. Okay, we'll do it. The problem is I just hate opening this file. This is an awful module activation file, but it's just how they did it. And the reason we have you do mage log is because there is no mage log here. There's mage all. Mage all has a lot of these older modules. Okay? So yeah, you just search for, you'll see mage log here somewhere. Okay, so I'll leave this file open for a second. So what I'm going to do right now is go back to my module registration file, day 2 here, and I'm going to add my dependency in here. And in my dependencies, I'll just specify, yeah, mage log, just like that. Just like it is declared in its own registration file. That's just the syntax. Okay? So, if I go here, and then let me see if I go back to mage log. If I set this to false, day 2 requires module mage log. I get a nice error message. Okay? Is there any other way I can disable mage log? In the admin. That's why I asked the question. So there's a spot here, and I will take a second to show you. So let me bring this up here. Bring up my admin.
We have found that it seems to work totally differently. I mean, certain things load, which is bizarre when you.
Well, allow me to part the mist.
Oh, that would be great. This has been a little head scratcher for us.
Okay, so in system configuration, there's this thing down here under advanced. And it looks tantalizingly like disable modules because it says disable modules output. Output is the key.
Oh, no.
Output is the key. Every single developer has tried to disable modules this way. Another interesting thing too is you can see like on modules that we've been creating, they show up in this list. It's very cool. But all this does is prevent output from being generated from your module. That's it. The module's still active, the configuration's still evaluated, everything. If you instantiate models from this module, they'll still work and everything. So this does not disable modules. This only disables the output, and it disables the output in well, it disables block output, I should say. So if you have blocks, you can do this. I think you can actually disable wish list in this way. You could also do it through configuration, but you could disable the output there. Much better though if you don't need it. I have yet to find a case. It's not to say that it doesn't exist. I have not had a case where I would disable the output of a module but need it to still be there for other modules. It's entirely possible that it can happen, for sure. But generally, I mean, if you don't need a module, just disable it in the configuration so you don't have the overhead of loading its configuration.